Welcome to the Soma Moon Wellness Podcast. Soma Moon Wellness is an online education and movement platform for women. I'm Jeanetta Bodie, co-founder of Soma Moon Wellness and a pelvic health yoga therapist. This is a space for better conversations about women's health, honoring real bodies, real seasons of life, and sustainable ways of caring for yourself through movement and education. Welcome to our corner of the wellness world. Last episode, we talked about pain. Specifically, 3 types of pain that helps us understand why chronic, persistent pain is so complex and so hard to move through. We were joined by Dr. Andrew Bennett, a neuroscience-based physical therapist with over 25 years of clinical experience and author of Healing Together, a book that bridges modern pain science with something often missing from medicine: relationship, safety, and love. Andrew has been a mentor and a teacher in the pain science portion of our yoga teacher training for a lot of years. And over the past 6 months, we've been working very closely with him to create a companion course for his book, Healing Together, which you can now find on our website, somamoonwellness.com. And it's really designed to help people actually understand the lived experience of getting out of pain and not just the intellectual part. And we'll talk about that today. But specifically today, we've invited one of Andrew's former patients to join us, and she's here to share what it looks like to live this work in real life, not as just theory or protocol, but as the day-to-day practice of learning how to relate to your body differently when pain has been part of your story for a long time. So today's conversation is what happens when those stories begin to change. So welcome, Debbie.
Thank you so much, Jeanetta.
You're welcome. I would love to just hear some thoughts on kind of what brought you to this work or how you found Andrew. I know you have a copy of the book, so we'll just kind of share about where you are today and where you want to go.
Excellent. I'll give a bit of a backstory. I used to work in pro-life pregnancy health. And so I was working for an organization that endeavored to help women see their unplanned pregnancies for factual information in their bodies, not emotional information. And it was through my work with this organization that I was attending a seminar about domestic abuse victims and why they stay. And during this seminar, hundreds of people in the room, I heard about a concept called the adverse childhood experiences. And this was a multi-decade test between Kaiser Permanente and medical records in California. And it's a 10-point test that determined from childhood experiences 10 variables that could show correlation or causation to later chronic symptoms and illnesses. And I'm looking at this, listening to this, and I said, that's me. I have 9 of the 10 of those factors that would predict late adult onset illness or disease. And I felt like I was having a moment of clarity that said, this is me. I am this person. Now that I know this, I have to do something different about it. Because I had been carrying pain in my body and in my life, but just each morning kind of slugging it on as a backpack and deciding, okay, I need everything I've got to get through this day, carrying this and all of the things that I'm trying to navigate on a day-to-day basis. So that was about 12 years ago that I learned about this ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, and that I was impacted by those. So that began my own journey of learning about chronic pain experiences in the body, and the connection to emotional experiences or lived experiences, not mechanical problems, because I didn't have any abnormal mechanical problems that would give a reason for my pain. I had normal abnormalities, and other people that have these abnormalities weren't suffering like me.
First of all, that was incredible because that totally makes sense. And I think that the picture that you gave of just carrying that backpack is something that I have done. And I think a lot of women do is like, let me take all of my own emotions and my own needs and shove them in this backpack. When I get to a place where I can look through it, then we'll deal with it. I think that picture is amazing. So let's talk about what you mean by the difference between the emotional component that you were saying, because in my work, I hear it all the time. We've got the body keeps the score and the body says no. There's so many books and teaching about how we feel pain and emotion in our body and its effects. But what did that look like in your life compared to like what you use the word mechanical challenges?
Yeah. So I would pursue a medical practitioner for help with my body. And so I have this pain here
Mhm.
in my low back, but I think it's emotional. I have this pressure in my shoulder here. I think it's connected to what I experienced as a kid. And I would put these bait out there for my medical practitioners, and they would just only be able to use their training of, well, pain equals there's a reason. And so here's a response. So
Hmm.
here's a pill, here's a stretch, here's a thing. What I spent 10 years doing, Jeanetta, was gathering information and believing that because I had the information, that should fix me.
Mm, wow.
I
Yeah.
spent 10 years collecting information and not knowing that collecting the information wasn't the same as implementing life change or
Hmm.
practically behaving differently.
Gosh.
And I'll also tell you that I'm a Christian, I'm a born again believer. I search the scriptures to give me guidance for how to live my life. And there's a strong scripture that says that my life can be transformed by renewing my mind. My problem was I couldn't get my mind to quiet down enough to give me space to consider renewal. I was just constantly reactive to everything in my life and then shaming myself for, damn it, why can't I fucking get off this train?
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
this constant cycle of responding, reacting
Hmm.
with energy and intensity that did not match the circumstance, but it was because I was constantly just ready to battle with everything I've got, because that's all I had was everything I've got, which includes huge backpack full of pain in my
Mhm.
back.
Gosh, I love that, Debbie. There are so many women that are doing the same thing, and I have been one of them. I think the wellness world, because I feel seen, more understood, the yoga world tends to have a little bit more feminine energy. Let's talk about your emotions, let's feel them. And what it did for me was I completely rejected medical because I was like, I don't want to get a prescription, I don't want to go to the doctor, I don't like insurance, I don't want to deal with these things. And so I disconnected between the two. One of my things that I've been doing with Andrew is really learning how to pull in what is good from the medical world, pull in from when we need sickness, when we need pathology, when we need some of those medical resources, but making sure that we are going to them when we're sick and not outsourcing our wellness. And then when we're in the wellness world of yoga and health and fitness and nutrition and nourishing our body, to make sure that we're not outsourcing that and we strive for more education and more certifications and more. If I could just know more or read this book or do this program or do this, we almost have prescriptionized wellness. That is the very foundation of what we are trying to do at Soma is here's education and now there is the work of choice. You have to choose. There's a book, Pema Chodron wrote, The Places That Scare Us. And she comes from a Hindu background. And I love what she talks about in her reference to meditation, which is this attitude of touch and go. So when the pain or when the emotion or when the feelings get really big, we can like sit in that meditation. We can see them almost like we're holding a snow globe and we're looking at those feelings. And then when they become too much, we go. So we come to them and we look at them, we evaluate them, and then we go away. And I think what happens when we're in pain is it gets distorted. What's important gets distorted. And so I'd love to know like how you made that jump from okay, I see myself in this ACEs where I'm 9 out of 10 and everything is bad. I've gone to the medical industry and they're not really hearing me. I'm doing all the certifications and the education. So, how did you bring that into the road that led you to Healing Together or Andrew or where you are today?
Yeah, thank you. About June or July of 2023, I was sitting in Minnesota and I just heard a psychedelic assisted therapy talk by Dr. Dave Rabin. He's one of the people that I've followed online. I've just orbited around mind body healing and trying to understand the experts from outside of the Western medical model, because inside the Western medical model, it was prescriptions and that's it for wellness care. And I've been on all the prescriptions. I was addicted to Vicodin for 4 years. I had muscle relaxants. I had anti-inflammatories, all the things that I just kept doping up, but nothing would change in my experience. So I got off of all of those medications, tried plant medicines. I have experience with plant medicines from my childhood and my youth of being reckless. So I would
Yeah.
use plant medicines in a reckless manner, but that wasn't helping either.
Yeah.
So it was through connecting with some experts in using plant medicines medicinally, titrating for medicinal support, that I began exploring how those could help me just take a breath and ease back. When I'm sitting in Minnesota, summer of 2023, I see this teaching by Dr. Dave Rabin about psychedelic-assisted therapy, and he talks about ketamine. Never had heard of it, but I'm sitting there and I decide to Google in Minnesota, ketamine clinic. Sure, there's a plethora. And I think, wow, could this be something in Wichita Falls, Texas, where I live? And I searched it and there was. I couldn't believe it. It blew my mind. And so from there in Minnesota, I typed out a message to, it was called Kairos Restorative Health here in Wichita Falls, Texas, had been open about 7 months by the time I reached out. And I got immediate response to come on in. Let's talk to you. I didn't come in right away. I wanted to interview these experts before I submitted myself to their treatment. When I came in and met with Dr. Bennett, I met with the medical director and also the clinician that was providing the ketamine infusions. I met all three of them and I came in with, I know the model through which you learn about these things. I'm already there. I don't need you to educate me. I need you to convince me
That's good.
that what you are offering is something that can help me. And it was really in that conversation that Dr. Bennett asked me one question. He said, what is there between where you sit right now and for you to say yes to us and trying this? And that was so powerful because it put agency in my hands. What did I need in order to say yes to this protocol? And I don't remember what I responded, but that invitation let me know that they saw me. And they really saw that I came with a lot of understanding, a lot of education, but not experience. And so I was ready to submit myself to them to go through an experience. And I didn't know what I was getting into at all. I had never experienced something like a medically induced mystical experience before.
Well, let's talk about that. I want to know about that. What was the experience like?
So here's the thing about a mystical experience is you can't describe it in a way that lets someone outside of you understand it fully. You just cannot. And grappling with that was so hard. I wanted a witness. I wanted somebody to say, yes, I saw that too. And I had to be okay with accepting what I experienced was what I experienced. And it was good and it was well and it was mine. And it was okay that nobody else got to see it at the same time. I underwent ketamine infusions. So what that is, an onboarding of the medicine. It takes about 5 minutes for it to begin to take effect. And for about 45 minutes, it's a medically induced mystical experience. And so the clinician is checking in with me occasionally to make sure that I'm still semi-conscious and responsive to her. But the experience is there's music playing, and the music for me really guided what the experience was that I had. And so I was prepared very well. The thing that helped me the most was to recognize nothing I was going to experience was new to me. That's the biggest thing I feared, was that I was going to go under and experience or see things that were new or different or frightening. And to know that nothing was going to come up that was new, that I was only going to experience what I've already experienced. And since I've already survived all of that, there was really nothing to fear.
Yeah, that's
That was
powerful.
so powerful.
That is. I want to take a minute just to share with our listeners a couple of things. Andrew, in his book, has a chapter on ketamine, and specifically ketamine, understanding kind of what Debbie is talking about. And so I want to make sure that when you're listening, that this is all education based. We are not doctors.
Right.
But understanding how ketamine can help in this situation added to physical therapy. I've heard Andrew talk about how a psychedelic experience like this can reset the brain. And so it allows exactly what is happening with Debbie, which is you go in and to have this mystical experience. There is a sense of safety that is happening because when we go into nervous system training, your nervous system's job is to protect you. It is to keep you alive and protect you. And so when Debbie is saying you go into this setting, which is safe, and the music, which is specifically designed for this experience, and the environment, she already knows the people that she's with, the setting is really important to be able to sit in the safety that I am safe. I am safe, and my nervous system is going to keep me safe. And I've been doing some studying. This might feel a little off, but I'm going to bring it back. But I've been doing some reading of Joseph Campbell. He's the original author of The Hero's Story. And so he is looking at all of these stories of mysticism from different cultures and different religions. And I've been stuck on how the feminine hero's story is so different than the masculine. Masculine is, you think about Jesus or Buddha, it is a sense of I'm going out into the world, I'm going to go fight, and then I'm going to come back home. There's a returning home. The feminine is I'm going to go deep internal. I am going to go to the dark place of the dark night of the soul. I'm going to go into myself and to the emotions. It's like birth, it's labor. It's like I can't go anywhere when I'm birthing. I'm laboring right here. And I feel like this is really paramount in women recovering from persistent chronic pain, which is we want to go out and find the answers and fight. I know some strong women, and I believe that you probably would have fought anybody if that was the answer. But for so many of us, and for my story with psychedelics, has been let me experience the internal emotions that I am afraid of. Let me hold them and look at them and let them not overwhelm me or overtake me, but teach me how to respond to them, learn from them. And then what it does is there's smudges all over the screen and you just kind of wash it off and you're like, okay, now I have some clarity. What do I do with this now? So after you did your ketamine experience, how did that affect your pain and rest of your work with Andrew?
I'll give you an example that my husband gave voice to just a couple of months after I had finished my treatment series. So I had an initial treatment series followed up by integrations and then practical how implementations. How do I use this in my life? And my husband and I were driving in a strange city. He was driving, I was sitting in the front passenger seat reading, and a car came and cut us off.
Mm.
Now, this would have caused me pre-ketamine to go
Yeah.
and have an immediate, overwhelming, aggressive response that we were going to die. I didn't even look up from my book. My husband pressed the brakes in response to this car moving over, so he saw it. I didn't even look up from my book. I just was reading. I knew what was happening, though. My husband was driving the car. Something was happening, but I didn't need to respond to it because my reaction meter just dropped so that I had the ability to consider, do I need to get involved in this or not? Before, I needed to get involved in everything. I needed to fight for everyone, including me. I would just interpret a scene that didn't even involve me. And I felt I had to get involved. I would rile up with steam. I was ready to swing dukes. None of that needed my energy. On top of now having this capacity to decide how to engage, I no longer felt like I was responsible to engage in everything, meaning I suddenly realized I have boundaries.
Oh,
There are things that I do need to get engaged in, but it's not everything.
oh, so good. Like a woman after my own heart. That is the story I have been living. My son is 9 and he's in this weird transitional stage where he's like not quite a baby boy anymore and he's moving into preteen stages and he wants to fight. He's getting close to puberty. and he's getting some drops of testosterone. It's been this really interesting phase where I withhold. I am not going to react to you. I've set the boundary, I've set the rules, and if you violate this, there are consequences. What has changed within me is that those consequences are not my rage. They are, hey, we're going to get dad involved. Hey, you're going to lose privileges. For example, the other day I asked him to carry the laundry upstairs and I came back inside and he was sitting on his Nintendo and I was like, cool, that's done now. And you need to go do your chores. And he had this huge, and I think the boundary for me that I've been working on is seeing you have your emotion and I don't have to fix it. I don't have to comfort you. You have to process it yourself. I have to coach you and be like, hey, you're having a 10 and this needs to be a 2. And let's work on regulating it, but not at the cost of my own energy. I actually have been thinking about this a lot of how women, one of the best gifts that we have is our emotional intuition, and we get rewarded for that. You're loved and you love me and you saw me and you heard this. I've paid your bill and I paid your bill and I've given this and I've given this. And at the end of the day, I'm left with this giant backpack and zero energy and nothing for me. And I have started recently kind of matching with my hormone cycle, but practicing at the beginning of the week is a family first or Jeanetta first. I take care of everything family related, everything Jeanetta related before I give anything to the world. Like my Mondays, I don't do any calls, I don't talk to anybody because I've had it flipped where I was like, oh, let me go give more. Let me feel my little ego boost. And then I get home and I feel miserable. I feel so inept and inadequate. And I think that just goes to show exactly you're not the only one struggling with this.
Right. I realized that I really showed up in the world in a very masculine energy forward way, very competitive. I could prove myself. I was going to be faster and more efficient and do it with more joy, all for external validation that
Yeah,
said, you are worthy.
yeah.
I didn't have any internal worthiness.
Mm.
I had so much consternation and pain on the inside of me that I didn't want to look inside. I wanted to remove the ugly from within me so I could be better at showing you, external world, how wonderful and perfect I was and how well I could get everything done. This real strong masculine energy. About a year ago, I was faced with a real family crisis that brought to the forefront my grief and more of my sensitivities.
Mm.
And I didn't know what to do with this. All of a sudden, this sensitive stuff is coming up, and I just wanted to weep and be tender. And I didn't know what to do with myself being weepy and tender. And I was pursuing more clarity of these energies and how do I modulate them, allow the feminine energy to come forth and modulate the masculine energy that had served me so well for 5 decades in the workforce. And it was through that experience that I also came to realize my inner adult and my inner child, and they have roles. And so this inner child wanted recognition and space to play, and the inner adult was saying, no, that's dangerous. Play is dangerous. And that's the thing that I learned when I was growing up. Play was dangerous. So my adult self would say, we do not play, we perform, and we listen for how we can help others so we can perform and be worthy. Well, this realization early last year between my adult and my inner child, I heard this phrase that was so positive. It was that my inner adult is here to keep me safe. And my inner child is here to keep me alive.
Mm.
Because I will die of immobility in my safety if I only define safety as firm and here and in this block. That's a casket.
Yeah. Oh,
And so
Debbie.
my inner adult, its overwhelming desire to keep me safe was also keeping me very isolated and alone. And it was in my work with Andrew that he gave voice to this, what he saw as I was standing in the front of a cave and everything good was behind me and I was protecting it. I was keeping it safe. And he said, what if you stepped away from the doorway of the cave, just took one step away to experience the out here, and let a little space between the out here and what you're protecting. Just see what happens. And it was in that description that you even described it when you quoted Pima about this, let things in a little bit. Let's see if we can create some capacity to see that I don't have to keep everything locked in. It's okay that it comes out in the world too. And so he really helped me to step away from the cave of isolation and fear and see what happens out in the world. Try it out. You really are strong and you really are okay.
Yeah. Man, that's such a good picture. I love what you said of that my safety was keeping me immobilized.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when we don't move, we don't use our bodies. We talk about in movement and yoga and fitness all the time is when you don't use it, you lose it. So as you get older, we play less. And so our range of motion gets smaller and our muscles become less stretched in that way. We need to be stretched. We need to have challenge. We need to have stress in our life so that we can create that resiliency against it. But I believe what I hear from your story and has been true in mine as well is this idea that if I come out of the cave or if I feel the emotion, I will be overtaken. I will be overcome. And I don't have that capacity in my body to be overcome because everybody needs me in the world. One of the lessons that I had from Andrew, he was helping me with some business coaching when I opened my yoga studio, is I got to that first year and I was like, I'm dying. My family is falling apart. My marriage is on the rocks. I'm yelling at my child every day. But look at me, I have this beautiful studio and all these people are loved and they love it. The image, as we worked through, the image that I had is putting a wall around base camp. My home is a sacred space. And I think the thing that changed for me so much was when I stopped letting my current life and my current time acting like a teenager, if that makes sense. Weekends are for playing. We're going to go out. We're going to go do stuff. I want to be with all these friends and I want to do that. And I was like, whoa, I've chosen to be married. And I love this person I've chosen to be married to. And he is my best friend. And I have chosen to have a child. And this is the most important thing for me. So I can find play and find pleasure and find all of this fun activity within base camp. My family, we love to play together. It's created a more sacred space at home. And it's also taught me that during the week, I work really hard. We're all moving different places. But on the weekends, we come inward. So there is that place to be overwhelmed, to be tired, to be emotional, because I know that I'm doing it within a sacred space where my partner is my protector and he's the person that I can get emotional with, and I don't have to go find somebody else outside. And so I really feel like a huge part of healing in pain for women is this recognition that what stage of life are you in? And are you still holding to old identities and old beliefs and not being able to say, okay, that time is done and I can let go of that. It's not my responsibility anymore, but this is, and I can be fully here.
I really like that. That came true in my life too, in another way. When I was ready to start strength training again,
Yeah.
Andrew and I met at a gym and he said, "Where are you at?" And I said, "I'm terribly frightened and I want to tell you why." The last time that I was in good shape physically, I was also extremely promiscuous.
Mm.
And I don't want to go on that path again. And it was so helpful for me to tell him that in my teenager mind, these two things were causation. If I allow myself to become physically fit again, that will equate to men's attention to me, and I have to respond because that's what I learned when I
Mhm.
was growing up. That you respond. That's a good thing. When men pay attention to you, that's what you want. So then you lean into that. I don't want that anymore. And he said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to work out with dignity.
Mm.
Dignity leaves no space for ambiguity. We're going to go at this with dignity. Dignity says that you're working out for a purpose. And the purpose is this: you want to maintain a strong frame so that you can respond to your life, etc. This is not about
Mhm.
gaining anybody else's attention.
Yeah.
external to you. And to really have that spoken, here's how we're going to do it, so that we don't get this train on a track that leads to destruction. We keep this train on the track that's healthy and good.
Yeah.
And that's up to me. And I loved being given that ownership over the outcome of what I was doing. It didn't have to follow the pattern that it had followed in the past when I was still looking external for validation. Now I'm learning to have the strength in me. I look inside of me and I find a new piece about me and I go, oh, I can accept that too. That doesn't have to leave. That's part of me and I'll accept that. I don't need to detach from it anymore.
That sounds so similar to, I do work with Jen Miller. She's a therapist that does internal family systems. This idea that there's parts of us and learning that these parts, these teenage parts, these child parts, these adult parts, like they were created because there was a purpose. They needed to do a job. And as you grow and your life changes, the jobs need to change too. And so some parts of us are still responding from our nervous system that this is still danger. And so one of the things that she has taught me, and I think Andrew talks about in his book as well, is this idea that a part keeps coming up. It's a subconscious pattern that lives in our body. If I work out, I will be promiscuous. Therefore, I'm not going to work out. And your body's like, oh, I'm going to freeze. I'm not going to do this. It's bringing that part with you to the gym and saying, hey, look around. We're going to work and we're not just exercising to look sexy and go find random men. We're going to be strong so that we can show up in our kids' life. We're going to be strong and we're going to look sexy. So then when we go home and we're going to have really great sex with our husband, this is my life now. And this is what we're doing it for. And I feel like when you do that, it's almost like the blinders come off and you're like, I can still have a fucking awesome life as an adult, as a 38, 50, however old your woman you are. I just have to let go of all of these other things and let those parts do other jobs.
Exactly.
Mm.
And it's even going inside and having the courage to face each of those parts and hear from them. Because I think, oh, I know the icky that's inside of me. I don't really want to talk to it anymore. And when I have that opinion towards myself, I have division in me.
Mhm.
And what I'm learning to practice is all parts of me are acceptable, the painful parts too. Yes, that hurts and it hurts for a reason. And that's okay. I'm going to be gentle. I'm not going to push myself while I'm hurting. I'm going to care for myself in ways that I wasn't cared for before, but I can do that for myself now. So it is learning that everything that I've experienced is here for a reason. And I can use it to transmute transformation, or I can allow it to keep me immobilized.
Yeah, this is so good, Debbie. So good. I want to finish with this idea. If you're listening, you're like, where do I even start? A couple of things. If you hear a theme of the things that Debbie and I are talking about, is this idea that we're not just a physical body, we're not just an emotional body, we're not just a mental body, we have a spirit, we have a soul. And that idea that there's multiple parts of us is in what yoga philosophy we call koshas. It's almost like Russian stacking dolls, where there's a body inside of a body inside of a body. And as we experience working with either yoga therapy or some of Andrew's work or Jen's work, this idea that we are looking at which body needs our attention. And sometimes the emotional body needs the most attention, but it's speaking in the physical body. Like the physical body is like, hey, pay attention to me because you're not listening to the heart. Or we're scared to go into the emotional body because our mental body gets in the way. And so yoga therapy, what it does is it kind of puts everything on the table and it offers an invitation to pick where you want to start. Where's the voice of pain coming from? What is it saying? And where would you find the most hope, the most dignity, the most agency? Where would you like to start? And that's how we do all of our courses and programs in Soma Moon on our platform, from pelvic health pain with Empower Your Core to Andrew's Healing Together. And we have all of this process talked about in our Living Yoga course as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this. Anything else you want to say before we leave? Anything else you want to share?
I think the fact that you just pointed out the koshas,
Yeah.
what I've learned is that there's not the right place to start. The right place to start is where you are. And
Yes.
that's where I kept running into barriers myself as I was trying to find the one door. Again, accumulating all this information, but not applying it, continuing to live my life, putting way too much pressure on myself, and just believing that now that I have all this information, things are going to change. Nothing changed until I started to practically implement. And it took stepping back from and curating my life around what's healthiest for me first.
Yeah.
And I love that the koshas, the thing that's making the most noise is where you can start, but that may not be where you end.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the interconnectedness of who we are as beings.
Yes. And I love that you said that there's always knowledge out there, and there's always somebody that's trying to convince you that their system is the one that worked. And I did the same thing as I would look at all of these trainings and be like, I need that one because look at the story that they're telling themselves. And I think the missing piece that we try really hard to make sure is apparent up front within Soma is the idea that this is your story. This is your journey. These are tools, and we're going to put them on the table and we're going to teach you how to use them and we're going to give you practice in doing it. But the integration piece, that requires you to show up. And it's a lot of work. This inner work, self work, isn't just like getting your nails done and be like, I did self care today. It's I'm shutting the world out and I'm going to have an emotional cry on my yoga mat by myself and then go pick up my kid from school and have a good conversation. Like, integration is a huge part of where I think the wellness and the medical world are missing. How do we take this knowledge and implement it into our lives?
I think it's so powerful that you're focusing on women and how women were unique. And so much of medicine is developed on men's studies
Mhm.
and men's bodies, and those things don't work for us all the way through. So I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing
Thank
with
you.
Soma Moon and really helping women to look inside and know it's okay that what they're carrying, what they're experiencing is okay. And there are ways to help activate it for a thriving life.
Thank you. Thanks
Yeah.
for spending time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. If this conversation supported you, you can explore movement classes, education, and the resources that we were talking about, specifically our Healing Together companion course at somamoonwellness.com. If you have questions that this conversation started, I'd love to hear them. You can reach out to us at hello@somamoonwellness.com. Our work is created to meet you where you are right now. Take what's useful, leave the rest, and care for yourself in a way that honors your whole self. Be loved, be well, be blessed. Namaste.
Namaste.